Here we go. 5 key words for Future Friday and for the rest of your life as we all live on the edge. I'm Stan Houston. Here are the 5 words. Perhaps you can think about them, write them down, and then I'll give you a brief description of what they might mean for you. Here we go. Purpose, poise, plan, prayer, pleasure. Now let's go through those. First of all, we're going to discover that one of the things we're going to have to do to make our life work is that we're going to take a continual time out. And it's been very much built into the way we do our lives. Every 7 days, we're supposed to do a little bit of reflection and perhaps relaxation and worship to discover what is and what should be and what is our purpose for life. And how do we live that out next week? The men and women who live in the 3% are people who are continually asking themselves first, I have projects that I have to complete. And there are also some projects that are opportunities that I might want to pursue. What is my purpose right now? Poise. Standing tall. Poise. St. Paul said in one of his letters to the people who he wanted to stand tall in their faith, let your gentleness, let your moderation be known to all. And so, writing to the Philippians from jail, he said, let your poise. The word gentleness and moderation could just as easily be translated, according to one of my friends and mentors, poise. What comes to mind when you think of the word poise? Does any person come to mind when you think of poise? Okay. Number 3, plan. Only 3 to maybe 10% of the people on planet Earth are really trying to work a plan. Now, I'm all for planning. However, I've also discovered that many of my plans have simply not worked out or they've gone astray. And so I don't talk about planning as much as I used to. Life is just too chaotic. It's moving too fast. It's hard to have a plan. And right now, a strategic plan is not even worth the paper it's written on. Who knows what's going to happen? How can you forecast? How can you know? But here's what you can do. What you will say is, in effect, the project that I'm working on, what is my next step? In effect, who are the people that I'm trying to serve? All right. So what is my product? What am I offering to the people? And then how am I going to persuade them so that I can make my first sale? I oftentimes said to a young man or woman who's starting their own business, I'm going to be a big plan. It's going to be all. I said, no, start here. You are the business now. Okay. What are you going to offer? How are you going to make your first sale? And then make it. Once you've done that, think further on. But what's your plan for service? What's your plan for the people? And what's your plan to close a deal? Purpose, poise, plan. Prayer. Here's the deal, my friends. Effective people not only pray, their very life is a prayer. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff I'd like to teach you that I'm learning through very hard times about prayer. And that's one of them. But the thing that delights me is to realize that prayer is about gaining God's special wisdom, purpose, poise, direction, and power. That's what prayer is about. God's special wisdom, purpose, poise, plan, direction, and power. So I want you to think about what can you do to pray. And you can start with what I call the simple creator entrepreneur prayer. Sometimes I smile and say it's the Clint Eastwood prayer. Lord, today you make my day. I have all kinds of things that I'm thinking about, and I've got all kinds of plans for the day, and my to-do list, and my meetings, and my appointment calendar, they're full. But you make my day. And always be looking out for an opportunity 100 times a day to say thank you to God. Just do that. That's how you begin to learn to have the power to pray. And I'm going to spend a little longer with pleasure. A number of years ago, and many of you may remember, but a lot of you were probably too young, there was a great, wonderful film called Chariots of Fire. And it was about the life story of a man named Eric Liddell and the competition in the 1924 Olympics in Paris, right after World War I, and his participation in it. Now, Eric Liddell was raised as a missionary child in China. But like many children, he was then sent back to Scotland, Great Britain, so that he and his sisters would be able to get a traditional, since European education. That's perhaps where they might live. They might not remain as missionaries in China because of their parents. They may or they may not. And so they went back. Now, during that time, Eric Liddell discovered that he liked to run. They said his style was terrible, but he was fast. And he began to compete as a runner, an amateur. By the way, at that time, all of the Olympic athletes had to be amateurs, no professionals allowed. And he started to win awards, and people talked about him. And he began to get trophies and ribbons for being a runner. You'd think that would delight his family, but his sister Jenny was not happy about that. And in one wonderful scene and somewhat lovely confrontation, he confronts Jenny, said, "What are you upset with, Jenny?" And then she goes off. This running. And her fear is that in his running and in his desire to run and compete and be all of those things, that he would lose the mission which they all had agreed upon, which was to go back to China as missionaries. And in a wonderful line, which I share with you today, if you've never heard it before, he simply said to her, "Jenny, Jenny, Jenny, don't you know that God made me fast? And when I run, I feel his pleasure." How do you argue with that? He had come to the point, it may not be his profession, it may not be what he does, but he had discovered that God had done something before he was even born. God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. As we go forward with the life-changing projects in post-COVID-19, would you please remember those 5 words? And remember that I can help you if you want to do more of the work. What's your purpose for the present project? Poise, plan, prayer. And what do you do when you feel God's pleasure? Just thought I would ask. Think about it this weekend. Think about it for a long time. Work on it for the rest of your life. Because that's what we're going to have to do, because we are truly living on the edge.